guys, yeah, so I believe Chile in this group has 1 win, 1 tie so far, and Turkey has also has 1 win and 1 loss. But yeah, going into Luciano's profile here, as we can see, 2023 Santiago regional top 16, Sao Paulo regional top 16, Naples regional top 16, and of course the Victory Road Galar Farewell top 8. So some really great finishes here, and yeah, also a very interesting team he's playing here.
A very interesting team. Very similar to what we've seen earlier on stream, as well as all throughout this early stage of Regulation E, where it is Ogerpon, especially either that water or fire type, alongside other super strong Pokemon, and then running it out with super bulky or super supportive Pokemon. And as always, Ogerpon can provide both roles, but looking at this version of Ogerpon, it is one of those offensive variants. So Luciano really hammering down that they want the offense. Chi-Yu Fluttermane, one of the strongest combinations we've seen all throughout the Scarlet and Violet VGC formats. Ogerpon, the new contender to this crowd, and then Landorus and Iron Hands being both supportive and super strong Pokemon. Amoonguss, everyone loves it, everyone hates it. It is coming along for the ride with Luciano.
Yeah, the reason I say this, because most of these Pokemon do seem very standard, but the reason I say I find this team very interesting is specifically because of this Ogerpon and its Swords Dance set. Because usually when I think Ogerpon and Swords Dance setup, it usually is expected to be the Heartflame mask and not the Wellspring mask. But I think this is also a very strong option because, you know, Ogerpon, the water typing, although there are a lot of grass types running around, you know, having that resistance to the fire types, to, you know, being able to resist Pokemon like Chi-Yu and Heatran, and, you know, also the fire attacks of the Heartflame Ogerpon, I think can be very useful to a team as well. So I hope we get to see this Ogerpon set up a Swords Dance and then fire off some powerful Ivy Cudgels. Otherwise, you know, we've seen the Landorus set before, we've seen the Chi-Yu set before, the Iron Hands, the Fluttermane. You know, I'm guessing that this booster energy is probably going to be a speed boost Fluttermane, as, you know, we've seen them so many times in this combination. The Amoonguss also, as you said, it's been around for a while, and even with the now Sinistcha being around, people still opting to stay with the grass support that, you know, they've been playing for so long and they know very well. But who knows, maybe we will also see, you know, some different supporting grass types in the future.
Maybe we will do. Ogerpon, of course, itself is slowly becoming that supportive grass type, and it is something that is becoming more popular than Amoonguss because it provides that better role of being strong and being, you know, supportive. But talking of Ogerpons being strong, here is that Heartflame variant coming out from Enes here, as well as their own Amoonguss. So going again for that possibility of supportive but offensive, as well as having further support along the way. Okidogi is one that stands out to me right now. I've seen a lot of my friends use it, I've seen a lot of people use it on ladder, online, on everywhere, and it is one of those Pokemon which, you know, feels like it doesn't do much because it has Guard Dog, which is, you know, I guess, at least in my opinion, not as powerful as these abilities like Defiant and Competitive, but still gives it a standpoint. And it's an Assault Vest variant, unlike these Bulk Up variants we've seen go around everywhere. So that's going to be a nice change maybe Enes can go for. Rest of the team, as always, we're seeing in this current format is that hyper offensive sort of get Tailwind up and throw damage down, especially with a Choice Specs Fluttermane on the roster for this side.
I think the Okidogi is something Luciano will have to keep in mind because, you know, as Enes, he does have that Ogerpon, which, you know, if it goes for that Terra Fire, will get an attack boost. So, you know, players do like to try and bring the Ogerpon's attack back down with that Intimidate from the Landorus. But, you know, with the Guard Dog of the Okidogi right next to it, you lower the attack of the Ogerpon, but then you'll also be giving an attack boost to the Okidogi, and it is running powerful moves, you know, like Close Combat and Poison Jab. And, you know, a knockoff, if you're still carrying an item, can also hurt a lot. So I'm interested to see if the Okidogi will come out at all, because I feel like it has a decent matchup into Luciano's team here. But of course, it can't really do anything against something like an Amoonguss, and the Landorus also looking a little bit scary. Although, you know, maybe the Choice Scarf could get knocked off. But we are going to head straight into this game 1. Fluttermane Chi-Yu lead here versus Fluttermane Tornadus. So Tornadus, of course, as it does, could easily set up a Tailwind here, not much stopping it from doing so. But of course, Luciano also has some speed control on his side with that Icy Wind.
Speed control in that Icy Wind is going to be very, very good, but of course, why go for that speed control when we could maybe see Luciano go for that outright offense? So it is just going to come down to that case of what are they going to see coming from them. Jet coming out from Luciano's Fluttermane, then Tailwind coming out from the Tornadus on Enes's side, meaning that this opposing Fluttermane is going to be the fastest out of everything. Dazzling Gleam is an option choice here, so they're going to see how much this does. That fire typing often doesn't save Chi-Yu too much. As Overheat comes on through, goes into that Fluttermane and does get that clean knockout. So even though we're super fast and looking super duper powerful, it is gone in the blink of an eye.
Yeah, both players locked in that first turn very, very quickly. You know, Enes, of course, getting that Tailwind out now, but losing a Pokemon in the process. Although, you know, this Chi-Yu is at -2 special attack now, and with this Landorus coming in Tailwind, and of course it has Choice Scarf as well, it could easily go for a Stomping Tantrum into this Chi-Yu, but then again, you know, the Chi-Yu could also just switch out here into something like, as we saw in the back, was the Ogerpon. So, you know, Luciano does have some options here to maybe stall out this Tailwind a little bit, and of course he does have Icy Wind on the Fluttermane to do some decent damage to both of these Flying-type Pokemon, but it is going to be the Iron Hand switching in here instead. And we are going to have our first Terrestrialization of the game here on that Landorus, so it is going to Terra into that Terra Fire, Terra Flying type, sorry. So might even go for something like a Terra Blast here, predicting that potential Ogerpon setup, but this Fluttermane, thanks to the speed boost, is actually going to still outspeed that Scarf Landorus even in Tailwind, so it's going to get some speed drop here, but oh, my bad, actually Luciano is the one playing the Choice Scarf Landorus, but Enes is actually playing the Clear Amulet set, meaning that Fluttermane is going to still be able to outspeed it, but will not suffer a speed drop from that Icy Wind, and is going to get knocked out now to that Terra Blast.
And Terra Blast coming on through, so it's showing if you can't outspeed something, you can obviously outbrute it down the line. Ogerpon comes on in and is going to be threatened by both of these strong flying type Pokemon, possibly even forced its hand into protecting or going for that Terrestrialization. Getting itself a special defense boost, which would be very, very nice in front of this Tornadus, but you all know that Tornadus often is only throwing out damage, you know, it as a lesser sense, and is often focusing on that purely supportive role. Especially when you have this Iron Hand as well, who is going to be throwing down terrific damage to both these Pokemon. Something that a lot of people from back in the day would never have thought they were hearing. We're seeing electric type attacks going into a Landorus, but of course, no matter what, it's going to be protecting, so it still feels like it has got a ground type if that damage does go into that slot there. Liquid Storm will come out as well though, doesn't go through on Zybercon, hits that protect, but it does hit into the Iron Hands, doesn't do all too much, but could be enough to that chip as the speed drop does happen. All that matters on the slot is the Wild Charge just go into that Tornado slot anyway, gets that knockout, meaning that that is another Pokemon advantage for Luciano, and doing very, very well.
So no more Tailwind after this one expires for Enes' side, but you know, maybe these last few turns of Tailwind could be all he needs, because Okidogi coming in here now does threaten this Ogerpon a little bit with a potential Poison Jab, and you know, it did just go for a Spiky Shield, so cannot go for another one safely. And so I think Luciano is in a little bit of an awkward position here, because I mean the Iron Hands could go for a Wild Charge into this Landorus, but again, I don't know how much it will be able to do against this Okidogi on the field now. And we are going to have our second Terrestrialization here for Luciano is going to be that Iron Hands, which will Terra into the Water type. Does not want to be hit by a Stomping Tantrum from this Landorus. So it's going to be able to take neutral hit from this attack here, and it takes that very, very nicely. Poison Jab from the Okidogi coming out here, not enough to knock out the Iron Hands. It's showing how tanky it really, really is, and Ivy Cudgel with a critical hit does over half to this Okidogi, and the Wild Charge is enough to knock out this Landorus, which of course did lose its ground typing, so not immune to electric moves anymore.
not immune to those electric moves, and also showing the same in reverse and why these defensive translations are so powerful on Pokemon like Iron Hands. Unfortunately though, it does take itself out with that fatigue from the recoil, so it is now another Pokemon down for both players, as we see the Chiyu is forced to come back in for Luciano next to this Ogerpon, which is still, no, it can't terrestrialize, sorry, because we did just see that terrestrialization, but relying on its pure damage as well as what is next to it could just be the game changer, as we do see that forfeit there from Enes, who means that Luciano takes the lead in game 1, and we'll see if that damage continues in this second game. We are straight into it, Fluttermane and Tornadus in front of Fluttermane and Chiyu, so the same lead coming out from both players, and this plays that instant mind game of, are we going to see repetition? Are we going to see the Tailwind plus Protect? Are we going to see Tailwind plus damage? Are we going to see the Icy Wind maybe come out a little bit sooner? We do know, of course, from this first instance that it was a Dancing Gleam coming out from Enes' Fluttermane to cover every base possible, whether that be a Protect, a Switch, something, you know, getting knockout on a Tornadus. Everything was covered in that environment. Let's just see what comes out in this going turn. Of course, Tornadus, just being the prank Pokemon that it is, can go for that super early Tailwind, making sure that the Fluttermane on that side is super fast. You see that terrestrialization coming out, making a Terra Fairy, so not only will it be fast, it will be super duper strong as well.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how this lead will work out for Enes here, because in the first game Fluttermane just went down turn 1, and it is going to go for a Moonblast here in Tailwind, and with that Terra Fairy extra damage, will it be enough to get the knockout on the Chiyu? Yes, it does! That is a huge knockout for Enes, because as we said in the last game, Chiyu did a lot of work for Luciano, and that Pokemon just went down turn 1 this time.
Going down turn 1, and it wasn't really the strongest piece in that last game. Like, yes, it got knockout on the Fluttermane on turn 1, but at the same time, it really did nothing until the very end. Like, yes, it stayed there at the end, it put that pressure on that caused that forfeit, but it wasn't really a key piece in the entire puzzle. But with it being gone so soon in itself, it's not one of the ones that can put that pressure on. It can't be a switch, can't be a pivot, it is just nullified, it is completely removed. And you can't get that extra buff on your Fluttermane, which was very useful in putting the pressure on knockouts from that behalf as well. Okidoki does come in though on the side of where the opposing Fluttermane is, as well as Protect coming out from Tornadus, so that's a very safe run over the events from Enes, meaning there's no stat drops going on to that Tornadus any further. Icy Wind unfortunately does hit into the Okidoki, but with it being Assault Vest and that Chiyu being gone, it takes nothing from it. If some attention comes on through, we'll be going into this poison type that does hit the field, it still lives. So, staying super duper strong, as loyal as it is. Let's just see what comes out from here now, because, you know, Fluttermane can come back in, have its choice unlocked, and throw down even more damage.
Moonblast going into this Tornadus here is not enough to get the knockout, but the Stomping Tantrum will be enough to KO this Okidogi, which even in Tailwind is not faster than a Choice Scarred Landorus, of course. So Okidogi, this game, I mean, we saw it, which is great, but not really doing a lot other than protecting the Pokemon in the back from being hit. And Bleakwind Storm actually gets 2 speed drops here, which, I mean, you know, Enes does have Tailwind, which means, you know, I guess his Fluttermane might not matter that much, but this Choice Scarf Landorus probably not happy to have its speed dropped.
Not happy whatsoever to have its speed dropped. Of course, Fluttermane is dropping the speed as well with its very own Icy Wind, but as with that Bleakwind Storm, Icy Wind can also miss, so having that being your reliability for making sure that the speed control is down as well as damage isn't always the safest one to go for. You see Protects coming out from either side of the field, the Tornadus and the Fluttermane getting them respectively. As you see, the opposing Fluttermane goes to that Moonblast, now faster than the Landorus, going on through, getting that knockout, which is going to be very crucial, given that it could have gone for another Stomping Tantrum, which was scary for Fluttermane. If not, it could have switched out and come back and forth and gotten those rock slides out, which is very annoying for most Pokemon on this field, because if it isn't super effective, it's still strong physical attack, and it is still having that chance to get that flinch. And talking about flinches, Iron Hands is here to make sure there's a fake out going down to allow a free move for Luciano's Fluttermane as well.
I think Enes saw that opportunity of, you know, the Landorus got the speed drop, and there's nothing stopping him from going for a Moonblast into that side, because, you know, worst case scenario, the Iron Hand switches in and takes a Moonblast and will, you know, go down itself. So it was either the Landorus or the Iron Hands going down that turn. And Tornadus is going to try to go for a double protect, but does not get it here. Iron Hand's going to fake out this Flutter Mane, which has lost its Ghost typing, and Icy Wind now dropping the speed of Flutter Mane and KOing the Tornadus for Enes. So, you know, it's not over yet, of course. I'm not sure if Enes' Flutter Mane is now in KO range of something like a Moonblast from Luciano, so that might be the turn that decides this game.
That could be the turn that decides it. Yeah, of course, with the Tornadus gone, there's no more Tailwinds being reset. Landorus has come in and drops and Intimidate down on the Iron Hands, but with it already putting the pressure down and putting this Flutter Mane on the back foot, it could just do so much. And with Terastallization still able to be activated for Luciano, it could just go for that Terra, as we do see here. So it is going to go from the Electric Sumo Wrestler to the Wet Sumo Wrestler. And of course, even if it is wet and damp, it doesn't mean it's going to have its day dampened alongside it, because it is going to happily take hits from both of these Pokemon. Protect coming out from Flutter Mane, again, just keeping it safe, as we saw that direct to Terra. See Stomping Tantrum coming on through, goes into this newly evolved type Iron Hands, still does a large bit of damage. Moonblast goes into that slot as well, so maybe a good prediction from Enes. It goes through and hangs on to 23 HP, gets that special attack drop, but who has to worry about that? Here comes Heavy Slam and removes that Flutter Mane.
Yeah, that Terra Water coming through, huge for Luciano, being able to survive both Stomping Tantrum and the Moonblast and knocking out that Choice Specs Flutter Mane. And now, of course, you know, as we said, the Landorus is not Choice Scarf, it is a Clear Amulet, which means that it can switch between moves. But, you know, Flutter Mane is going to be faster, going to be able to fire off a Moonblast. That's not quite 50%. And, oh, Flutter Mane actually takes this Stomping Tantrum. Heavy Slam, not going to be able to knock out this Landorus. But Flutter Mane will be able to pick up the KO this turn. Wow.
Flutter Mane hanging on that. Not even invisible Focus Sash, just hanging on through sheer might. Luciano obviously putting a lot of effort into the spreads and sets, as well as maybe some love and tender care for that Flutter Mane, showing that